ever thought, in just a few short minutes in the mist off the coast of England, a seemingly anonymous incident would set off an alarm in the entire security system? A mysterious boat crashed into the shore one afternoon. No signal, no declaration. When the patrol discovered and signaled to stop, they did not slow down. On the contrary, one jumped into the sea. The other tried to accelerate to escape. Why did they run away like that? What were they carrying? And more importantly, who were they running from? Behind what seemed like an illegal intrusion was a network that intelligence agencies had been monitoring for months. Try to guess. What is really happening in those seemingly peaceful waters? Don't take your eyes off the screen, because this story is just beginning. The first was a quiet, 56-year-old man from the town of Durham, where most people knew each other by nodding at the coffee shop down the street. His name was Bruce Knowles. No one would have guessed that this man, with his plain looks, gray hair, and slow walk, would be the protagonist of a dramatic sea chase. The second, much younger, Ferhat Gumrukoglu, 32, Dutch. An unfamiliar name, an unfamiliar face, but perhaps familiar to anyone who has ever paid attention to the clandestine smuggling routes from Europe to Britain. No one knew his past, only that when he was discovered, he chose to dive into the sea and swim to shore, as if he had been preparing for this for a long time. They were not friends, nor were they adventurous travelers. They had a specific reason for being on that speedboat, and that reason was what had made them willing to confront the armed border guards. Not for the cash, not for their lives, but for what they were carrying, that they could not be detected. But who were these two men in the bigger picture? Why had they chosen the waters of Suffolk? And most importantly, who or what was behind them? No one wakes up one morning and decides they want to become a drug mule on the high seas. It doesn't happen. People like Bruce and Ferhat, they enter that world step by step, starting with small deals, promises of easy money, and then there's no turning back. As the investigation later showed, they don't act alone. Such boats, fast, unmarked, professionally manned, are the favored tool of transnational drug gangs. The goods are shipped by large ships from South America, then dropped at rendezvous points off the coast of Northern Europe. From there, in a matter of hours and a fast enough boat, they can reach any coast in Britain. The question is, why Bruce Knowles, a man in his 60s from Norfolk, with no previous convictions? And why was Ferhat, a Dutchman, with him that night? Were they accidental links or pawns in a planned operation? Some questions the police have answered, but others remain unanswered. It was early morning in late June 2024. The sea off Suffolk was almost calm, save for a light wind and small waves lapping at the British Border Force patrol boat. But the atmosphere was different, tense as a bowstring. A high-speed RHIB, a long-hulled, powerful motor, was speeding toward the shore. It was not emitting a locator signal, it was not responding to radio signals, and it was moving in a way that no one could call accidental. The border force had been watching. As the boat approached the East Banasher Broads, a remote stretch of Suffolk coastline, a warning came over the radio. "This is Border Force. Stop immediately." The boat kept going. Less than a kilometer from the shore, the boat pitched violently. A young man on board, later identified as Ferhat Gumrukoglu, 32, a Dutch national, suddenly jumped over the side of the boat, plunged into the icy water, and began swimming toward shore. The sudden action caused the boat to momentarily lose its balance. The other boatman, Bruce Knowles, 56, from Durham, did not jump. Instead, he tried to restart the engine, turn the rudder, and steer the boat towards land. But his efforts were unsuccessful. The RHIB ran aground in the shallow sand, the engine roaring but unable to move the boat clear of the muddy terrain. For several chaotic minutes, the boat rocked violently in the waves. With no other choice, Knowles was forced to abandon the boat, jump into the water, and try to swim to shore like his previous companion. From that moment on, the two disappeared from the sight of the border guards, leaving the boat stranded, empty, and suspicious. The RHIB was towed to Lowestoft Harbor, where officers immediately searched it. Under the damp tarpaulin, they found 350 kilograms of pure cocaine. tightly packed, wrapped in multiple layers of plastic, neatly stacked in the hold. There was no sign of haste, no faulty packaging. Everything had been done with the utmost professionalism, as if it had never been done before. Estimated street value, around £39 million. This was no mere daring operation. This was part of an organized network, a network that spanned the globe, and the boat was just a small branch of that vast machine. As the boat was towed into Lowestoft, no one on the investigation team knew for sure what they were dealing with. Drugs, obviously, but the quantity, 350 kilograms of pure cocaine, was staggering. No one would just accidentally transport enough to disrupt the drugs trade in the southeast of England for months. A National Crime Agency task force was called in the same day. In less than 24 hours, the boat was sealed, the evidence was stored in a controlled environment, and a multi-agency investigation began, involving Border Force, Suffolk Police, and international drug tracking units. The RHIBD had no number plates or locator beacons, but it was powered by a powerful twin engine, a rarity in civilian boats. The hull is designed to avoid radar, and many details on the hull suggest it has been through at least a few long sea voyages. Scratches and salt erosion suggest the boat is not new. The question is, how many times has this boat passed undetected? The tarpaulin covering the cocaine is a high-grade waterproof tarpaulin, usually only found in specialist logistics. Each package of cocaine has its own unique code, a kind of internal identification mark that cartels use to distinguish shipments. This code matches a shipment intercepted in the Netherlands in 2022. CCTV at the port, dash cams, maritime surveillance aircraft, all data from the previous 48 hours has been extracted and analyzed. A grainy video from a distance shows the RHIB being launched from a mothership, but the mothership does not remain in British waters, only appearing briefly from international waters. At the same time, traces of a special engine oil were found in the hold of the RHIB, matching the type used on some of the modified fishing boats that are often seen in Rotterdam or Antwerp, ports known to be drug transit points into Europe. The jacket that had been left hanging on the side of the boat, thought to be useless, contained a hair, and a DNA sample matched that of Ferhat Gumrugoglu, who was arrested a few hours later near Wrentham. In addition, Bruce Knowles's fingerprints were also identified in the control compartment of the boat. The police also seized a small knife, taped along the spine and wrapped in plastic, a clear sign that it was a backup tool which could be used in an emergency. The NCA quickly sent a request for coordination with Europol and the Dutch police, and from there, the links began to appear. Ferhat had been informally monitored in a drug trafficking investigation in 2023, but no concrete evidence was found. Between 2021 and 2024, he appeared in 4 major European port cities, Rotterdam, Ghent, Hamburg, and Le Havre, all on the white route of the South American cartels. Although no direct links to the bosses were found, a phone contact list seized from him after his arrest linked him to a group of logistics operators in Europe, responsible for preparing the vessels, fueling them, and landing points. The investigation gradually revealed this was not the first. There had been at least 2 similar shipments previously suspected of being successful, each time a different boat of the same type, each time a different shoal on the east coast of England, from Norfolk to Essex. This time they thought they had gotten away with it, but they did not know that. After months of silent monitoring, the system had locked on the target, and for the first time, both people on the boat did not have time to escape. The 350-kilogram cocaine shipment was not a spontaneous act. From the structure of the boat, the way the drugs were packaged, to the near absolute silence of the 2 suspects, everything points to one thing. They are links in a tightly organized smuggling network. The technical signs on the RHIB boat suggest that it may have been used for many previous shipments, with offshore receiving points, where the mothership drops the cargo in the middle of the sea, avoiding radar. The symbols on the cocaine packaging match the distribution system of South American cartels, which have been detected in the Netherlands and Belgium. Ferhat, the younger one, is believed to be the helmsman, who may have performed similar tasks many times. Knowles, the older one, acts as a guide or coordinator at rendezvous points, But most importantly, both are not operators, but only transporters. Behind them is a complex network of logistics, from the fuel suppliers, to the boat mechanics, to the landing organizers, all operating anonymously, dividing up responsibilities so that no one person has the entire plan. And that's what makes it so difficult to dismantle the entire network. The two men left the speedboat in a rush of desperation, plunging into the icy cold waters of the Suffolk Sea. They thought that if they could just leave the boat, leave the most important piece of evidence, they could escape. But they forgot. Once they were noticed, every step in the sand, every mud stain on their clothes, was a sign that led straight to the arms of the law. Ferhat Gumrukoglu, a young man 32 years old, Dutch, was arrested first. He was found wandering near a small road on the outskirts of the town of Rentham, just a few miles from the coast. Soaked in his clothes, muddy on his hands and feet, looking frightened, he was carrying no identification. Locals, who knew each other in the small town, called the police when they saw a strange man who looked like he had just stepped out of the sea. Ferhat did not resist, did not say anything, just kept quiet and followed the police officer to the station. During the arrest and initial questioning, he maintained a discreet, almost cold attitude. There was only one request from him. "I want to make a phone call." It was not made public who the call was to, but the content was recorded, serving the investigation. Meanwhile, Bruce Knowles, 56, a British man, was arrested shortly afterwards, near the shore where the boat ran aground. When the police approached, he was sitting against a rock, his face calm, not resisting. It seemed he knew the escape was over. No noise, no shots, but no escape. Both were taken to the Suffolk Detention Center the same day. The charge was quickly carried out. Within 24 hours, they were formally charged with conspiracy to import Class A drugs into the UK, one of the most serious offenses under the country's criminal code, punishable by up to life in prison if found to constitute a criminal organization. But the case did not linger in litigation. In August 2024, both pleaded guilty, perhaps because they knew the evidence was overwhelming. The seized boat, the 350 kilograms of cocaine, recovered intact. Fingerprints, DNA, travel history, and even data from Ferhat's phone all formed an incontrovertible picture. By the time of sentencing in May 2025, the courtroom at Ipswich Crown Court was packed, not because it was a high-profile case with a lot of press coverage, but because the scale and severity of the operation had left even security officials stunned. The judge made it clear to the court, the defendants were not simply drug traffickers. They were part of a sophisticated, organized network, acting with intent on a scale that posed a threat to the community. If undetected, this 350 kilograms of cocaine would have spread through our cities, destroying the lives of thousands of people. British national Bruce Knowles was sentenced to 17 years and 3 months in prison, a sentence that reflected his role as the main driver and the extent of his attempts to escape detection. Dutch national Ferhat Gumrukoglu was sentenced to 15 years, taking into account his cooperation and lack of previous convictions in the UK. The pair were sent to a high-security prison in the East, where they will serve their sentences under strict conditions. By law, they can only be considered for a reduced sentence after serving at least 2/3 of their sentence, provided they show good behavior. As the courtroom doors close, the case files are closed, and their names fade into the shadows of the justice system. Outside, investigators continue to dig into the bigger question. They were just couriers. So who gave the orders? Case closed. 2 men convicted. 350 kilograms of cocaine seized. But does justice really stop at a trial? Bruce Knowles, a man in his 60s, living quietly in a small town. Ferhat Gumrukoglu, a young face from the Netherlands, never prosecuted before in the UK. They are not kingpins. They do not own the mothership. They do not hold the money. They are just 2 links in a larger system, a system that still operates offshore, where there are no cameras, no witnesses, and no clear rules. The question is, how many other shipments have successfully reached shore? How many people have been harmed by the seemingly invisible white stuff? Justice may temporarily close the case, but the consequences of each drug trafficking act, broken families, out-of-control teenagers, and a society that suffers long-term consequences. What do you think? Will arresting the couriers be enough to stop the flow of drugs running underground in the UK and the world? Leave your comments below. Have you ever seen the consequences of drugs? And if you found this story thought-provoking, like, share, and subscribe to discover more real-life cases where the truth is always more complicated than we think.